I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name's Tony. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Thursday night Keystone Bib Book Study Workshop of the Program of Recovery. We have other meetings during the week. Ray puts on a great meeting Tuesday. He's been filling in for a while. Really appreciate it while I had work and family responsibilities. Doing a stellar job. And then Monday night is the women's meeting at 6 o'clock. Same Zoom number, same ID. That's for the women only. And then Wednesday, I guess they still have the home group. So we have a lot going on. And then we have a lot of our members put on meetings in the community, AA community, in different places, in their where they're located and stuff like that. And so we're just getting back into the beginning again. And me and Katie, or Katie talked me into getting back involved here. I was thinking on taking a hiatus, and God had other plans, right? So, like I said, I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name's Tony. Sobriety date's April 8, 1989. Still kind of baffles me every time I say that. My first meeting was in 1978. I got 12 steps through the program of recovery in April of 89 and haven't looked back. Been, like we've said, I haven't met anybody who's ever been through this process, who's had the experience, has laid out in here, and who's ever relapsed. You know, it's a pretty good stuff. And Katie, why don't you introduce yourself? Haven't seen you forever.
Hi. Yeah, I haven't been here for a while. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me back. Good turnout already, 50 people. That's pretty fun. I really missed. Bib Book was a big part of my early sobriety, and it fires me up. I wouldn't be here without this Bib Book. So I'm very grateful to Tony and all the lessons, and yeah, I'm excited to get into this with you guys.
You've been here so long that we usually introduce yourself like, "Hi, I'm Katie. I'm an alcoholic."
Oh yeah, that's what we usually do.
That's how long it's been. Eh? Right on. So the good thing, hopefully everybody's got their Bib Book. If you have any questions, we have a Q&A after, question and answer period afterwards, and there's some worksheets, there's some talks that we have so we can get better involved. Why we do this is really the highlight of our life. When you look at guys been sober a long period of time, like 36 years, a long period of time, and this is still one of the highlights of my life. Used to do 3 Bib Book studies a week, sometimes 4, but now I just cut down to 2, resting on my laurels a bit, right? So Monday night we have it in town here, and we go from 7 to 8:30, and to watch new people come in who really don't understand the necessity of engaging in something like this if they're afflicted with this illness, right? Because we hear so much different information within our fellowship that it gets really confusing on what we need to do, what we don't need to do, and what we're hoping that we can do, right? And a lot of self-based ideas in our fellowship. I don't know if there's any other relapsers here other than myself, right? And you hear people say, "Oh, relapse isn't a part of my story." Either you don't understand what that statement means, or you don't have a story yet, right? There's still time, right? So relapse is very much a part of our story, the inability to stay sober. So when they talk about the title page, right, we'll kind of look at that, and the format here is me and Katie will kind of banter back and forth. She'll do some reading. I'll interrupt her, and people say, "Why is he always interrupting her?" Because this is a Bib Book study workshop. What we're doing is bringing our collective experience. And there's a lot of people here. If you need extra help or extra guidance, if you put your name in, they'll be more than willing to help you, guide you, and kind of navigate you in the right direction. It's not an overnight matter. So what they talk about here on the title page, and as Katie reads, I interrupt, and we go over some points. We're going to hit the highlights and bring some of our experience. That's my rescue dog. So we'll kind of go through this stuff. And then what happens is, I don't know why my wife did. She's tormenting the dog outside. So if he's barking, he's a rescue. He runs around the house and stuff like that. So anyways, bear with us. So what happens is we're going to go through this, starting with the title page. Katie?
Okay. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name's Katie. And
hi, Katie. Good to see you.
Tony, the title page is gone out of my book.
mine's here too. I don't even know what it's kind of like.
It's all falling apart. So
yeah. Usually when a book's falling apart, the owner's life isn't, right?
That's, but it's the story of, okay, you got to do it. I can't. It's been too long. I don't have
it. Okay, so you don't have it. So it says Alcoholics Anonymous. The story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. So right off the hot, it kind of introduces some different ideas. And most people, if you're like me, when you got asked what's the most important statement there, I would say recovered, right? Before I got challenged on the information being presented. And I have the benefit, like my sponsor used to say, it doesn't mean that, or go back, read it again, or give me a bit of history. And then he passed away a while ago, over probably 17 years ago now. Then I met my wife, who has her master's in English, right? And she's part of the Golden Key Club, and she helps me go through the English language because I wasn't very educated when I got here. And she explains stuff. So when she read this, she goes, "Oh, isn't this interesting?" And I thought she was reading the book so we could better, we talk about the information in here, because when people ask me information and I maybe don't fully understand, I'll go ask my wife, what does this mean in regards to language and kind of presentation and stuff like that. So when I gave her the book, she started reading it. I was looking so forward to being the sole authority of this thing, right? And she goes, "Oh, isn't this interesting?" The title page, she says here, the story of how many thousand men and women who have recovered. She goes, "What's the most important part of that statement?" I said, "Recovered." She says, "No, the story." First question, I bomb it, right?
It's like me tonight. Why am I even here?
Yeah, because
like, bring back Ray. Bring back Ray.
No, you're doing great. So it's actually the story, right? Because without the story, the impact of what's being presented wouldn't be. I know nobody of this fine crowd has ever been to court, right? But one of the things the judge will ask is, "What's your story? Like, what brings you here?" Well, like what, right? And the better the story, hopefully the less the sentence, right? If you have no story, then it increases the sentence. So a lot of us like to have a story. Anybody have a story they like to present to people? Any good storytellers here? Any get out of free jail card? Let me tell you a story, right? So it's the story of how many thousands of men and women who have recovered from alcoholism. So as we go through this, we're going to hit some highlights. And it's your job to go through the book. It's not our job to sit here and read every line by line by line. Like, I don't got that much time, right? So we hit the highlights. As you're reading it with your sponsor or going through it yourself, you can say, "Oh, this is the basis of what they're trying to get across here," right? So go through some of the history and the preface. Do you have that page, Katie?
Hey, I do.
Yay! We'll do a little wave for Katie. Okay, so...
Great.
In my book, it's Roman numeral 11.
Yes.
Right? And so here they talk about the 4th edition as they go through the copies, the printing. And then the highlight we're going to hit here of one of the things of the building blocks in regards to the information we need to build on. So what they're going to present is some ideas that we're going to build on, right? What's the first idea that they present here that we're going to carry through as a theme? Because this book, everybody there?
Yeah, second paragraph. Because this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such large numbers of alcoholic men and women to recovery, there exists strong sentiment against any radical changes being made in it.
Because we're radical people, right? We want to change everything. You mean it works? Okay, let's change it. Okay.
Therefore, the first portion of this volume describing the AA recovery program has been left largely untouched in the course of revisions made for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th editions. The section called the Doctor's Opinion has been kept intact just as it was originally written in 1939 by the late Dr. William D. Silkworth, our society's great medical benefactor.
Awesome. So, because this book has become the basic text, right away it tells you what type of book this is. So you should kind of highlight that, right? Is important information. What's the basic text? The transferring of information, right? From the people who put this together to the reader. Who's the reader? We are. put together by who, we're not too sure yet, but it's a basic text. They'll get into that. So they're letting us know what type of book this is. Some people think it's fiction or fantasy, but it's actually a textbook, right? And so the other thing is, therefore, the first portion of this volume describing the AA recovery program has been left untouched. So what's the first portion of this volume describing, Katie?
The AA recovery program.
So if you're looking for the AA recovery program, where would you find it?
In the first portion of this book.
In the first portion of the
textbook.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So I did not know that. 11 years of In and Out. You think I would have gathered that information somewhere. But I did not know that. They would read how it works at one meeting. They'd read the promises. And I'd be sitting in a 12 and 12 meeting trying to get sober. Right? It didn't click into me that the program of recovery was found in the AA Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, let alone the first part. I've heard the first 164 pages, like the catchphrase stuff, but I never knew the depth and weight of that statement. So when George asked me, hey, where would you find the AA recovery program back in April 1989 before he conned me into a Big Book study, I showed him the directory and I said 90 meetings in 90 days. I always thought the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous was the program. Right, and the reason I wasn't being successful, I was either hitting the wrong meetings or the inability to kind of bring about this change by myself. That's what I was kind of gathering at. I never knew any of the information here. So the AA recovery program is found in the first portion. So as we move through here,
it's also pretty cool, Tony, that's like the first page of text. So it's obviously pretty important that we understand that, and it's interesting that we all miss that, or most of us do.
Yeah, because we're told to go read how it works.
Yeah.
That information's for other people that don't know how it works. We know how it works. I've sat in me. I wonder how this works as they're reading how it works. I'm probably the only genius type mind here, right? So, forward to the first edition. Let's see what's going on over here. This is the first edition, would be the first print of the first book, yes?
Yeah.
So let's see what it's saying here. This is the, I want to start with there.
Sure. This is the forward as it appeared in the first printing of the first edition in 1939.
1939, snap. Like when you think about that, right? Like anybody here from 1939? Ray's close. little dust there, but he's not quite, right? He's not doing all right? He coughs dust, but he's doing good. He's a good guy. Okay, we
of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body.
Holy smokes, they're using that word again. They've used it a few times, recovered. Mm-hmm. So people who say who we don't recover are obviously people who haven't been through this or understand what they mean by that. They have their own interpretation or their own understanding. And you'll notice when we go through this, it won't pause and say, what do you think? It won't do that, right? So being a basic text is gathering information where I can be educated to move forward. It's like I never did really good in school. I had straight A's, though, for absent, but I never really hit the school thing. My education was happening in the backfield, and probably a couple of you here. Some of you actually got educated, not so much me, right? So when they open the text, right, like the textbook math, I remember opening it up near the middle and going, holy, wow, this looks very complicated, and I didn't even pursue it. But if I would have started at the beginning of the book, and by the time I got to that section, I would have the basic information to continue to move forward, right? Okay, go ahead.
To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book.
So what is the main purpose of this book?
To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered.
How they have recovered. So they're not going to tell you how to recover. They're going to tell us how they recovered. Tried, tested, and true. They have a method here that they put in the print that they all agree on. Mm-hmm. Right? They all agree on, and it hasn't changed since the first edition. Right? So you hear people say, oh, they didn't all stay sober. Well, you know what? FYI, neither will all of us. Right? And the more you understand the illness, the more it'll make sense when they talk about later in the book where they talk about obtaining a daily reprieve and what's that based on. A lot of people think they have a daily reprieve when they put down a drink and go to meetings. No, that's not what the essence of a daily reprieve is, right? And so when you understand the nature of the illness, then you'll see why a lot of us really don't like the for us to make it longevity is really not in our favor. So it's really important that they put this together in such a way that they're saying, hey, we found something here, right? And we're going to share it with you, right? And what the basis of what they recovered from is a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. You notice they didn't say and spirit. Mm-hmm. Mind and body, meaning the basis of the problem. So they're saying they had this problem, right? They got introduced to an idea or a solution that they put into practice and they recovered from it. And now we're going to show you that recipe, right? So it's pretty interesting. So the more I need to understand the collective understanding, not my understanding, or for me, what are they talking about? Being a basic text, I need to understand their understanding of the basis of what the problem is, what the solution is, and what the course of action that they took that possibly that I may need to engage in or not engaged in. But we'll find that out by the time we get to page 44. I'll have all the information I need, whether I need to continue on or not. By the time I get to page 44, I'll have the same understanding they do in regards to what is an alcoholic and what isn't an alcoholic. What one needs to do to recover and what one doesn't need to do in order to recover. Does that kind of make sense? Did you want to add anything to that?
No, that's awesome. Nailed it.
So I don't know what they've talking about here, but I know the main purpose now of this book is to show us precisely how we have recovered. So precisely, does that mean open to interpretation?
For us, but no.
No, it's not open to interpretation because this is their experience.
Yeah.
Right? Nowhere they're going to say, what do you think? Or would you like to put your input here? It's like, I need to understand their collective experience. So I need to understand what they mean by a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And there's a lot of really good information through here, up to the doctor's opinion on the history and the stats and stuff like that, right? And a lot of people like to throw around on page ruminant or XX about, that the AA statistics or stats have changed. It's the same. It's exactly the same as it was back then as it is now. And there's a qualifier to that, right? Later on in the book, it talks about when there's accurate representation of the information that's being presented here, people are given the opportunity whether they want to do this or not. And when presented with the solution to the problem, they have a full understanding and they pursue this thing, the stats are the same. Mm-hmm. Right? But getting to that place of needing to do this, not everybody in the fellowship needs to do this. And they cover that here, right? They cover this idea of just because you're in the fellowship of AA doesn't mean you have the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, mm-hmm. right? And if you're new, you're the only one that don't know the difference. And the only people that really know the difference is the people that have been through this. If you haven't really been through this, then you're stuck with your own understanding of this thing. So in Roman numeral XX, they talk about here public acceptance of AA group by leaps and bounds. Everybody there? My book's XX, right? It's the last page, second last page of the forward to the second edition, for those who have a different book without the stories in it.
All right. Public acceptance?
Yeah.
Okay. Public acceptance of AA grew by leaps and bounds. For this, there were two principal reasons: large numbers of recoveries and reunited homes.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, right? So people that didn't have an answer, they seen people who were afflicted with the same illness that they have. They're witnessing this thing happening to people that they've known or people familiar with them, because back then it would be word of mouth, right? It's like when Bill later phoned and says, talk to the wife, said, hey, my husband, right? And he went and talked to the husband and stuff like that, word of mouth, right? Like with Ebby, with Bill, people who knew Bill, like who knew people who were in that predicament. Does that kind of make sense? And you're witnessing happening in your community or with people there's no better story than that, right? Did you remember Bill? Yeah, well, Bill seems to be doing pretty good now. You're kidding. Yeah, he seems to have an answer to his problem. Why don't you give Bill a call? Okay, go ahead.
These made their impressions everywhere. Of alcohol.
Okay, so hold on. So we're going to look at things here. Wording's very important. Of. They make a statement here. Of alcoholics. Not everyone who came to AA. Of alcoholics. So look at that word. So the wording is very important because it sets up the idea being presented, right? And so sometimes if we haven't don't understand a certain paragraph or a certain phrase, we got to look at the statements leading into it and those that follow, right? So here he's making a statement of the alcoholics. Go ahead.
Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried.
Really tried what? The process, the program of recovery. Really tried this thing that was being presented, because back then it'd be one and the same. The fellowship didn't take over back then, right? The program was very much kind of the basis of everybody's experience. Basically, right? It'd be pretty hard to go to a meeting and not have somebody 12-step you along these lines. It was one and the same. The message in the book and the message in the fellowship was the same. Somewhere along the line, we started having more people coming to AA than there were people able to 12-step them. And pretty soon there's more of them than there are of us. And then the more of them are trying to help us, and they can't help us because we're a specific type of animal, which we'll get into later, right? Because if it was just don't drink no matter what, we wouldn't be here listening to these fine people today, would we? Right? We'd put the cork in the jug. Where's the cork? Go ahead. Of alcoholics. Okay. Yep.
Lost the cork, found the plug. That's it.
That's it.
Okay, and 50% got sober and remained that way. Okay, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way.
So that's interesting. So that means those who came to AA, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50%. So if there was 100 of them, 50 of them got sober at once and remained that way. So this may sound weird, but when I got introduced to I'm a part of the 50%. I came to AA and never did the process. So I'll be a part of the statistics that follow. But once I really tried and got into this thing, I've never looked back. So far, so good. I'm a part of the 50%, even though I've been here since 78. Right? I've really tried this process, right? Go ahead.
25% sobered up after some relapses.
So how many people has been through the process and had some relapses? So it's part of the statistics also, right? Because you come here, you get feeling better, and you mistaken it for getting better. You start resting on your laurels. That's why there's a warning later on in the book, and that's why they give us a daily regimen to follow to stay spiritually connected. It's not about how well I work the steps, it's how well am I connected. The steps don't keep us sober. They get us connected, which we'll find out later. And it's based on a daily reprieve of my spiritual condition, not how well I work the steps. Right?
Or how much you know.
It's not about my knowledge. It's about the experience and the connection, yes? This is where we start losing people.
Yeah.
Okay, so after some relapse, because it reinforces, oh my God, this illness concept and daily reprieve and the malady that we'll find out later of this condition of the mind that places us beyond the ability to see what's happening. We fall victim to the idea of taking a drink again, right? They said this is this condition of the body and mind that we'll expand on. So so alcohol gets our attention again. And then we double down and really get involved in this, realize it's really about my connection, right? That's why I'm here on a Thursday night. That's why Katie's here. That's why most of us are here, right? And some of us are fishing for new people, right? Because they have no idea about the experience that's available to them. And we're more excited for new people than new people are excited to see us. You ever notice that? Why are these people so excited? Because, man, we know what's available for you. Right? You think you've started a jail sentence and we've entered a way of life beyond anything you could ever imagine. You don't see it because it's not, really not seeing it. It's about experiencing it. Right? Go ahead.
25% sobered up after some relapses, and among the remainder, those who stayed on with AA showed improvement.
So who are they talking about here? They're talking about the alcoholic, yes? Mm-hmm. Right? Of alcoholics, right? Very specific who they're talking about. Showed improvement would mean like Ebby. Ebby kept on getting drunk, but he 12-step Bill sufficient enough to bring Bill a course of action that he incorporated within his life, which we'll get into later. Got drunk, but he ended up dying sober. So AA prolonged his life, where he wouldn't have lasted as long without AA. And AA, that's what happens with sometimes. All we do is prolong people's lives. Right? So that's the sad, there's such unfortunate. But hopefully we end up dying, or they end up dying sober, right? Go ahead.
Another reason for the wide acceptance of AA was the ministration of friends in medicine, religion, and the press.
Oh, we passed it. Oh, you jumped right by. Showed improvement. Other
thousands came to a few AA meetings, and at first decided they didn't want the program.
So other thousands came to AA, right? So they're talking thousands. So when you look at the statistics today of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober, and so right, the same as there. And there's thousands of people come into the fellowship that don't know they're not staying. Yeah. That really don't want what we have to offer, or don't know what it is that we're offering, because they get into groups that their primary purpose is lost and the traditions aren't in place, right? Like the first tradition, fifth tradition. Because the first thing we experience in AA without realizing it is actually their traditions, right? The traditions are in place, so we have a safe place as a new person to come here, right? And we're being guided without realizing we're being guided. It's just like every time I see Susan or people I know who have been through the home group, they come in there, blah, and then we focus on them and we just start steering them really gentle, right? And they think it's their idea what they're doing, getting involved in it. And then they think they've picked their sponsor when they don't realize we've already picked them for them, right? That's our group. If you come to our group, we'll assess you and we'll hook you up with somebody that kind of meets your story, your experience, and they'll start working with you, right? And if you don't want to participate in that, they won't hound you, but they'll keep walking with you. And then our group is so solution-based that people will stop coming to it, right? Because we have a primary purpose. Anyway, so that's what they're talking about here. Anyhow, let's move over to the exciting part without realizing it's exciting. And this is... The first time I read this, the doctor's opinion, I had no idea what was being presented. And the guys who got me sober were only 3 months. Like the guy who got me sober was 3 months who fixated on me. And he was a guy who was dying of alcoholism, also in the fellowship of AA, in and out for years. Right? Like my last relapse, I did 360 meetings in 90 days. I was in 4 12 and 12 studies. This is after 11 years of in and out. Right? And like I'm sitting on my birthday thinking what a great job, telling everybody what a great job I'm doing keeping myself sober. The next day I talked about what a great job I did staying sober on my birthday. The next day, April 8th, I got a 3-month chip after 11 years of in and out. Just did over 360 meetings in 90 days. Gave the best talk of somebody that had no idea what they were talking about. Right, I was very impressed with what I had to say, right? And an hour later, I'm drinking. Mm-hmm. So George was of that type, and he got, there was a guy named Machine Gun Jerry in our area, old gangster guy, right? And he had his hat on crooked, and everybody thought he was part vampire. He lived forever, right? And he'd talk about it, right? And he'd walk around, and he'd walk up to you, and he'd look you up and down and ask you a couple questions. And based on your answer, he would look at a couple guys he was traveling around with and give them the nod to say, okay, go work with him, right? And then he'd go find somebody else. He'd just walk through, take 2 minutes with you, see if you were ready or not, and then he would just continue on, right? So they got George into a big book study workshop in the home, back then it was actually in the home. They took George through this thing, and they told George to go find the sickest guy he knew. He was out of town, so he started working with me. I didn't give him consent to work with me. My consent was given as soon as I showed up at a meeting. I never asked him of any of this. He seen I was dying and I was unable to make that kind of call for myself, what was in my best interest, but he knew what was my best interest. I was unemployable. I was puking green bile. I was dying of alcoholism at 27 years old. My liver was sticking out the side. George knew a guy in my mental condition could not make the assessment necessary to participate in the saving of my own life. So he started working. He started asking me stupid questions. What's an alcoholic? And I'd tell him what I thought it was. And he said, none of that makes you an alcoholic. It makes you a blank, 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 which would piss me off. But it wouldn't make you an alcoholic. Then he says, where's the program of recovery? I showed him the directory. And he says, nah. And then I'd share in meetings, and he'd walk up to me, and he'd go, that was a good share. And I'd go, oh, because I knew he'd start asking me stupid questions. What are the 3 pertinent years? What's this path that they talk about? 11 years of in and out. I could very impress other people that didn't know I was what we're talking about. That's why newcomers love newcomers, right? You both bullshit each other, and neither one of you know you don't know what you're talking about, right? So I had, without realizing it, and I think Katie will talk about it in a second here, is that I'd hear something good at one meeting, and I'd start sharing it at another meeting. I know nobody does that here. I'm the only one that does this here, right? And I'd formulate a talk on what sounded good, and the response I got from other people, catchphrase, bumper sticker, throw a slogan at it, right? Turning it over, letting it go. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems, right? And there you go, Ray. You were wondering how long I was going to be, eh? 25 minutes in. So, and then George would see that I really didn't know what I was talking about. He never walked up to me and said, you don't know what you're talking about. He just started working with me, right? And then he turned around and said, hey, why don't you come and help us out? We have another study. I denied the first one because it was my home group, and that's where all the single women went. That's why I picked that home group. Nobody else picked their home group based on availability here, I know. 27. So when I came out here, holy smokes, I was 25. So anyways, that's 2 years of trying to get sober out here. That's a whole different story. So George says, why don't you come and help us out? So I went to this house thinking I was going to go help these guys out, right? My vast experience, totally useless to me, but maybe I can help you with it, right? And so when we got to this here letter from the doctor, I didn't realize the impact of the importance of it the first time through. Neither did they. Years later, as I've studied this and looked at, this sets up the whole book. This sets up the whole story of Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is so remarkable what takes place on this page. And if you kind of get an inkling of what's being presented here, it kind of will kind of motivate you if you're looking for a solution to a problem you haven't found a solution yet. It'll motivate you hopefully to follow us, right? Mm-hmm. So did you want to add anything to that?
No, it's so cool. I was kind of the opposite. Like, I just came in angry, and I knew nobody knew what they were talking about, because I'd ask them why. Why do you have to do that? How many sponsors did I go through before they put me to you? Because I would ask people, why do I have to do that? I had to have these women telling me what to do and go to this many meetings and do this. And I would say, why? And they would say, because I said so. And that never flew with me. So how many, I burned through so many, nobody wanted to help me because it was unhelpable. But I really just wanted to know why. And then I went to Tony's Big Book study, and I heard exactly why, and he could show me in the book on what page why it says that, what that means, what it means to be an alcoholic. It was no one's opinion anymore. It was facts, and it saved my life. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it. It's really cool.
And you got to also, now that you tell them, why did I start sponsoring you?
What was the final straw? The guy I punched out at the meeting.
She punched out a guy at a meeting, and nobody else, she couldn't find a woman to sponsor her. So I'd have other women say, hey, will you sponsor? I said, I don't sponsor women. They go, well, you sponsor Katie. I said, that doesn't count.
I've changed a lot. It's been 10 years. God is good.
Yes, God's good. Okay, hey, go see one.
So yeah,
So,
pretty cool.
okay, the doctor's opinion. Let's get into this thing. This is the rock and roll, the meat and potatoes. Hey,
Here we
buddy,
go.
I'll take you out after this.
XXV, the doctor's opinion. We of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in this book. Convincing testimony must surely come from medical men who have had experience with the suffering of our members and have witnessed our return to health.
So there are two things, right? The medical practitioners who've witnessed the suffering of people with our affliction back when this was written, right? And they talk about the return and witness the return to health, right? So that starts, okay? What type of doctor is this guy?
A well-known doctor, chief physician at a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction, gave Alcoholics Anonymous this letter.
You hear people say, oh, Bill didn't go to this is treatment. He specializes in alcohol and drug addiction. That's what this doctor does. And he's not just a general GP. He's the chief physician, right, of this hospital, right? Okay.
Gave Alcoholics Anonymous this letter. To whom it may concern, I've specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years. In late 1934, I attended a patient who, though he had been a competent businessman of good earning capacity, was an alcoholic of a type I'd come to regard as hopeless.
So here he sets up the conversation. A lot of people miss this, right? So he's saying this guy in 1934, right, was a competent businessman, but he was afflicted with his illness. So as long as he's afflicted with his illness, would he be able to live up to his potential? No, so we see that he come to regard as what? Hopeless. Right? So he's saying this guy's a good businessman. He come to realize this guy in 1934 as hopeless. Right? Why is he hopeless? Go ahead.
In the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery.
So in the course of how many treatments?
His third.
His third treatment. So by the time he finished his second treatment, he's going back there. The doctor already deemed this guy as what?
Hopeless.
Hopeless. The doctor already made his diagnosis with this person. Yeah. Right? He's coming back for the third time back in 1934. 1934. My wife also pointed this out that I did not know it. When did Prohibition end? 1933. Build it and they will come, right? It's like they're already getting ready for us, right? Like alcohol is not even legal, drugs, but they have a treatment center for it, right? So, and he come in the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. So this doctor's witnessing this thing, right? So there's something different that happens the third time that wasn't presented the first two times. Right? But he's in a treatment center. He's being presented a course of action by the doctor that the doctor put together for people that it seemed to work with. But we'll find out there's a group of people that he doesn't seem to be successful with. And this is where the story of Alcoholics Anonymous starts, with these certain groups of people that were not successful under his treatment facility. Because if it was, the book would be called different. Right? It'd be called Dr. Silkworth Program of Recovery, right? So right away he's saying that his process didn't work for people like this, but he acquired certain ideas that we'll get into later that he put into a practical application, and he witnessed this thing taking place within his facility that this letter is based on. It's pretty exciting stuff. Go ahead.
Really cool. As part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to other alcoholics, impressing upon them that they must do likewise with still others. This has become the basis of a rapidly growing fellowship.
So even the doctor knows the difference between the program of recovery that's presented in this book and the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yep.
So when we call the fellowship the program, are we doing an actual representation of the information that it's life-saving knowing the difference, wouldn't you say? You think it's important knowing the difference between the fellowship of AA and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous?
Yeah.
How many people get told, welcome to the program? If you think you're in the program, right? then all you got to do is being suggested by all these different people and figure out what makes the most sense to you. Try to apply it. And if it doesn't work, and if it's not working, then you're listening to the wrong people or playing the wrong things, or you just don't want it, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Right? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. This has become the rapidly growing fellowship of these men and their families. This man and over 100 others appear to have recovered.
There's that word again. We're just starting the book. And then how it works, people don't realize. You hear people say, oh, we don't recover. When how it works is those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this program. They just told you that they haven't done this process.
Yeah.
They just told you that. And they just also told you that they don't need to. They'll always be recovering. They'll always be working on themselves because they can afford to do that. But if you're afflicted with this illness, you can't afford to work on yourself. Because the more time spent with you, the worse things get. Yes?
Yep.
I've seen people say, oh, the promises are coming true. Well, you should inform your face. Because, like, if you want what I got, holy shit, I'm trying to get rid of what you got. So, I mean, we missed the whole essence of this thing, right? Anyways, I have moments. I warn you ahead of time, I have moments like this. I try to reel it in a lot sooner. I'm getting better. Okay, so I personally
know scores of cases who are of the type with whom other methods failed completely.
Okay, so here we go. A type. They're talking about a certain type that we'll find out later. Most people don't know what type of alcoholic they are. I ask people that, oh, what type of alcoholic you are? They go, what? They act weird. I was an alcoholic before I got here. What makes you say that? I was an alcoholic before I drank. Impossible. You hear stuff, right? You hear stuff that makes no sense based on information.
No.
Right? It's like I was allergic to pistachios before I ate them. How do you know? You gotta eat them. Right? And it wasn't the first time I ate them. It was somewhere along the line. So, he's talking about other methods that fail totally. How many people have been to meetings where a lot of different methods are being presented?
Yeah.
Different ideas, different scopes, different new methods, new ideas, acceptance, surrender, turn it over, let it go, meeting makers make it, just don't pick up the first one, if you really want this thing, blah, blah, blah. You hear all this stuff, it makes sense, but once you understand the problem, it makes no sense whatsoever. So this doctor's saying he's dealt with people like they talk about, that's outlined in this book, who other methods have failed totally. But they found a certain idea that's being presented to Bill, that Bill put in the application, and they seem to have something here that he's witnessing. That's what he's saying here. Right? He says other methods have failed, but this method seems to work with these types of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a strong statement. Well, what type of people? We're going to get into that. Yeah. Right? Just because you have a drinking problem doesn't mean you're an alcoholic.
Yeah. And you wouldn't know that in meetings, because
you know,
if they say they are, they are. That's not how it says in the book, but that's what you hear in meetings. You're an alcoholic if you say you're an alcoholic. No.
So if you're misinformed, are you going to make informed decisions?
No.
But you don't know that, right?
Yeah.
If you're maladjusted, full flight from reality, and downright mental defective, who's the only one that don't know that? Is the defective.
Yeah.
I'm walking around, and everybody go, whoa, look at the cheese and crackers not even on the same plate with that guy. And I'm walking around like, oh, I got it all together now. Want a date? No, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
These facts appear to be of extreme medical importance because of the extraordinary possibility.
Oh my God, extreme. Is that an important word? Extreme.
Yeah. Extreme.
There's some heavy words here that we gloss over sometimes, right? We're funny people. When does it start talking about me? Extreme. We're trying to gather information here, right? They're starting the doctors with some pertinent information here, right? Okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Because of the extraordinary possibilities of rapid growth inherent in this group, they may mark the new epoch in the annals of alcoholism. These men may well have a remedy for thousands of such situations. You may rely absolutely on anything they say about themselves.
Not all the people who come to AA specific group of people.
Yeah.
Right? So they're a very specific group of people, and there's a lot of people who fight us on that now, right? Like we're like a lot of us are being like, oh God, I hate saying that. I'm trying to be more nicer. We're given a lot of grief when we say we've recovered. We're given grief. When we talk about the program of recovery, we're given grief. When we talk about our relationship with a power greater than ourselves, we're given grief. Yeah. Unless we get around like-minded with people who have the same experience, right? So when a new person comes into a group like that, they don't know any better, right? They're not conflicted with all this different information. They get to see how this thing really works in these people's lives. And if you want what we have, right? They talk about making easy going of life. They talk about a rising above their problem. They talk about this peace and tranquility. They talk about this relationship with a power greater than themselves that's produced the impossible. It seems appealing. If I'm a guy drowning and I see you're offering a life jacket, I don't argue about the color anymore. Right? Right? It's kind of like, okay, yeah, I'll take it. Right? Okay. Go ahead.
All right. The physician who, at our request, gave us this letter has been kind enough to enlarge upon his views in another statement which follows. In this statement, he confirms that we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe... Torture! We don't know...
Not having fun anymore. We're not having fun anymore. We've gone past the point of tripping, banging our head, and crapping our pants. Like, this is not a one-time situation. This is torture. Like, this is an ongoing thing that's not fun anymore. Not for me or the people around me, right? Or if you just felt the nip of the ringer, okay, got a warning from the boss, the wife's not happy, the girlfriend's not happy, right? They're both not happy. Something, so, just... Like, I see there's problems happening here. People are starting to talk about it. Maybe I'll just ease off for a while. This is not that kind of thing. This is torture, an ongoing situation I can't change or alter that has me and I don't have it. When you're being tortured, you can't remove yourself from that situation. Like, see the language? When torture, right? To be tortured, you're in a situation that you can't get out from. You need... to be rescued from it, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind.
So they're starting the first conversation around this illness. Remember they said the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body? They're starting the first conversation in regards to the body. We must believe that the body... So he's in the mind, but he's starting this conversation with the first symptom in alcoholism. They're going to represent certain language and terminology that we're going to build on. So they're saying the body part here. Let's see how he follows up with the expansion of the idea of this physical part. Go ahead.
I feel like the body's the easy one. Like if you've experienced this. If you hear about it makes sense. Yes, I have that. That's an allergy. I have an abnormal reaction to alcohol. Shocking. I remember calling my sister from treatment and telling her that. It's actually a thing. I react to alcohol. She's like, 30 grand and that's what you've come up with?
Most expensive Bib Book you ever got. First one costs you everything you own. Second one's free. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
The body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind. It did not satisfy us to be told that we could not control our drinking just because we were maladjusted to life, that we were full flight from reality, or we were outright mental defectives. These things were true to some extent. In fact, to a considerable extent with some of us, but we are sure that
I can't see what they're talking about. I know people it relates to, but it ain't me, right? You got 3 friends that look normal. Guess who's the one that's maladjusted? 1 in 4 ain't quite right. If 3 of them look right, okay, we'll move on. You think about that later. Okay, go ahead.
But we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out the physical factor is incomplete.
This is important, because if you don't have the first symptom, Doesn't matter if you have the second symptom.
Totally.
Right? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. As laymen, our opinion as to its soundness may of course mean little, but as ex-problem drinkers, we can say that his explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account.
So this is where groups like this, Big Book study workshops with people who've been through the book, who have a good understanding of the basis of it. Sponsorship, so important, because sponsorship should be based in the information based in the book, right? Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be twisted to my understanding of my ideas. My job with a sponsee is to get them through this process, to get the collective understanding of what the problem is, what the solution is, and the course of action is, right? Collectively, it's not a singular thing, right? And so when they talk about that we have an allergy to alcohol, if I would have went with my understanding, I would have never got, like, what you're talking about. I could pound back a 40, like, I don't understand what you're talking about, right? The people I drank with drank like me, right? I didn't hang around with normal people. There's nothing, I drank with a normal person once, there's nothing appealing about it. They're the problem drinkers, right? People, I used to brag or feel so proud of how much I could consume. And probably nobody in this crowd, right? So, analogy. So they're using terminology that they all agree on, that who all agree on? Well, the doctor and those who put this together. So an allergy is an abnormal reaction back in 1934, 1939 when they put this together, an abnormal reaction. So what's a normal reaction? Well, don't ask what a normal reaction is. I'm married to a beautiful woman who is a social drinker, right? Mm-hmm. The way she drinks disturbs me. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. We just think differently in regards to alcohol and how to consume it and how to purchase it. It's just totally different. Way different, right? So when I take a drink back, it makes good sense. It explains things otherwise we could not account. So that means somewhere along the line is not the first drink I ever had, but somewhere along the line when I took a drink, I started becoming concerned with the next drink. And I remember that. I remember when that happened. Before that, I've had many drinks. Like my mom said, I had a beer when I was still in diapers. Mm-hmm. Right? Like on and I had drinks, wine, Ryan Cokes and all that stuff, family get together. But there was never like, I want to know. I wasn't finished the first one and thinking about the next one. But there came a time when I was having one and I started thinking about the next one before I was finished the first one. Anybody here? Anybody kind of remember? Like the people around me weren't thinking about the next one. I was thinking about the next one. Right, mm-hmm. I started developing this thirst or this something inside that said, you should have another one, and it made sense to me. And there was nothing more important than having another drink. And as the years went on, it took precedent over my life. I started planning all my events around drinking. Before going to the bar, I'd be drinking. After the bar, I'd be drinking. Sneaking some in. Going camping. I remember going camping a long weekend. Second day in, everybody realized nobody brought food. Right? Funny, like cases of beer and powder goods and everything, Sega Beach or whatever it was called back then. And then so I started looking back, and all my events were planned around having the next drink. Mm-hmm. Okay, isn't that interesting? So when I remember the first time it really became evident is when I went into this situation and I went and got a big bottle of a really high-end wine. I think it was Baby Duck, 1.5 liters. I was going to this girl's meet her parents.
And you brought Baby Duck.
It had the lid. You don't have to worry about a cork. 1.5 liters. We're going to go meet our friends after. And so as I was going to the till, the thought came there might be other people there who would like to drink. I went back and picked up another 1.5 liter one, and this is before I left for the Army. I got 3 liters of wine going to this person's place, and I'm proud of the idea. When she opened the door and seen these gold lids sticking out of my leather coat, because I rode my bike there, my motorcycle, on the highway, which later I think about now, inside my coat to keep them nice and safe, right? These coats. I walked like I had twins. Look at these beautiful babies. And she was so concerned. She goes, we're going out after. And I went, yeah. Right? So that would be classified as the allergy. Do you have any? I know you don't have any stories like that, do you?
I'll say my favorite one. You know my favorite one. Okay, real quick. Walked into a bar after last call and can't get a drink. And I see someone's left a full beer on the table. And I'm like, yes! Bingo! Grab the beer, slam the beer, get to the bottom of the glass, and it's not going down. Someone had thrown up their beer, their foam, into this glass, and I just That's theology. And then you know what I did? I threw up and then I drank more.
You got a problem, lady. That's crazy. Like, we're the only people that find stuff like that funny, right? My wife would be horrified. I remember a guy talking, I remember hearing that from somebody going, and I went, oh my God, how sick is that? Drinking. And then I remember I was so hungover when I was like dying, and I thought if I could just get this Ryan ginger ale down, anyway, if I could just get this down, the first one, I'll be all right. And as I was getting it, I coughed up and it went in the glass and it was turning, and my brain said, if it doesn't settle, it doesn't count. And I sucked that back. Anyway, so anybody identifying with any of that, you're in the right place.
And we're back. Thanks for having us.
And we're back. How do you like us so far? So this week, we're getting to the end here. This week, go back over your drinking career and kind of see where was the first time where the second drink became more important than the first drink. Because it doesn't matter the first time you had a drink. That's not where the problem starts. Alcoholism started not from your first drink, right? It started from the moment you started thinking about the second drink before you finished the first drink. That's when alcoholism started. So go back over your drinking career and say, do I have this thirst? Do I have this thing, this concern, this idea, this pursuit of the next drink before I'm finished the first drink? And then we're going to continue on with the rest of the book. It's really a pleasure being back here tonight. You guys rock. We'll have some questions and answers after. And then, we got 7 p.m. So we forgot. We got so excited about starting. We forgot to open with the Serenity Prayer. Well, we'll close with the Serenity Prayer.
That's what threw me off.
That's what threw us off. There we go. So what's the basis of a great life, Katie? God. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Live long and prosperous. May the force be with you. We'll continue on